Hey guys, welcome friends and family to my channel. My name is Skylent and here I do just rants and opinion pieces, I do reviews, and I talk about video games. It's Skylent Games, I play games, I talk about games. Sometimes I don't even play the games, I just talk about upcoming games, and I do a lot of research into new stuff and things and try to show it to you. So if you like that, you want to see more of that, and you want to sponsor me buying a lot of these new games, you can check out the Patreon, get some eyeballs on that, and help keep the hype alive. But anyways, we're going to get into the rant, and I do want to apologize, actually, that there might be a little bit of an echo. I'm still adjusting to my new studio and Patreon so I can buy some soundproofing pads. But anyways, today we're talking about something that I will probably make multiple videos on, actually, because I think I want to, really go deeper into this, but I needed to gauge interest first. So first rant, then maybe we'll do an essay, then maybe a full freaking documentary on this. Maybe we'll even do some Mythbusters to test this shit out. But I have a thing that I've always felt kind of tugging at my heart when it comes to these kind of games. Definitely, especially when I jumped over to PC gaming. When I played games like Halo, and then I actually played a couple of melee-ish style games and fantasy games back in the day. I didn't quite get that sensation. A little bit when I played World of Warcraft and of course RuneScape. It's like, why can't I just jump over the fence? Why can't I do this and that? And when it comes to older games, it kind of makes sense. There's limitations. You can very clearly see that it's due to gamification, such as Halo. Like, it's a very active choice that they didn't have running, or they didn't have this or that. It kind of just made sense. But then games started getting a little bit more realistic. We got Call of Duty, which is not a simulator whatsoever, but they added the sprinting, the aim down the sights. Battlefield had the parkour and etc. We move on, and then of course when it comes to fantasy games, we have more mechanics that are mechanical. So we have maybe a game that has dashing and jumping and leaping and wall bouncing even. And then now we have a lot of games that are kind of simulations. It could be fantasy, it could be low fantasy, but we're going to show gameplay in the background of a title which I'm not really harshing on. It's not too much of a negative impact. It's still a fun game. It's still enjoyable. It's still very good. It deserves its mostly positive reviews. Anyways, this game is called Mordhau, but with the namesake, it's actually really focused on historical European medieval martial arts, man. Like, it is more or less like as simulation as it gets, but there are some arcade elements to the game. So I guess you could probably relate it. It's not an Arma exactly of melee combat. It's really more of like a battlefield. It even goes to 64 players. It's very much inspired, I think, designed by Chivalry, like kind of concepts, and also mixing and matching that with Battlefield. So yeah, if you played Chivalry, also, that's a similar game, kind of more of a arcade / simulation, but still more of a simulator than a lot of MMOs or I guess historical like RPGs that we are used to, like Skyrim, things like that. This actually does, what I'm about to talk about does carry on majorly, especially so inside of fantasy games. But I just wanted to kind of go at a ground level, like a realistic point of view to show you how ridiculous this is. Okay, so my problem with these games, with these melee, especially it's just melee combat games, really with the fantasy games, is that in real life, and trust me guys, I'll combat you. I know as soon as I say this, you guys are gonna start typing. In real life, I can move faster and do more than inside of these video games. And so immediately some people will say, well, yeah, okay, maybe, but probably not, because you're a fat slob. I mean, really? You're wearing armor, How fast can you run? You can't roll in armor, things like that. Honestly, guys, yes, you can. You can move pretty quickly in plate armor. You can do a lot, with these weapons, just because you're holding a sword and you think it might be. Like, no, people run with giant rucksacks all the time. There's actually videos of people running, sprinting, rolling inside of full armor, with big weapons. Like, it is possible. You can do stuff and things. Okay, it's not impossible. The reason it's not included is mostly for gamification. And I'm just saying, even in the simulator games, there's a lot of stuff that's actually very unfantastic, which kind of makes sense to a way, but then it gets kind of overdramatic. For an example, in Mordhau, I don't think you could do a running kick. Like, your kicks make you stand in place. You don't have a lot of momentum. You don't carry through. With that, you just kind of lock in place and you kick, and it feels very bad. Also, a lot of the swings are very, very slow, and that's kind of due to the control system of the game, since you actually swing with your camera. And there's really, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, overall, as a gameplay feel, it's something that it kind of tugs at me, and it kind of annoys me that I can't do more, that I can't be more acrobatic, especially when you can actually, you know, in a lot of these games, make a completely light character with no armor or things. So why can't I, you know, be extra? Why can't I parkour and climb, you know, trees or do something like that? Obviously, because they just didn't program it into the game because it's still a video game. But because it's a video game and not real life, I would expect me to at least on par do what I can do in real life. And I'm just, you know, it's something that it's hard to complain about because this is a good game, Mordhau, and a lot of the games that I would probably reference could, you know, be considered very, very good, you know, for what they do. It's just, for me personally, I feel that we're at a point where we could do more, maybe. We could go a little bit above and beyond, especially when it comes to combat. Martial arts, they're arts. There's a lot of creativity inside of martial arts. There's a whole lot of gamification that is not really expressed, I think, appropriately. You know, we've had some games that, like Absolver, try to do some unique mixing and matching of Kung Fu, but it's still very limiting, very slow-paced game, and still very unfantastic. There's almost every MMO basically lacks verticality or jumping. You don't really have a lot of intricacies with aim in MMOs, as an example. And then, you know, you have games like Mordhau, where you have full intricacies of aiming, but then you lose a lot of the kind of bigger, more extra things like maybe flying jumping kicks or I don't know, something like that. Because of the limitation of, you know, the way the control system actually works, the aiming, which is, again, fine. It's something that's just weird. It just feels floaty to me. You know, the game just plays slower than how it would in real life. And again, people would probably say, well, Sky, we haven't seen any videos of you playing with swords or anything like that. Like, okay, guys, I mean, I used to, like, you know, I played with sticks and stuff when I was a kid, and shit was just not that slow, okay? It just wasn't. Then you can, I mean, really, you can just go on YouTube. You can see first-person fencing duels, saber duels. You can see people, you know, actually wielding these things, HEMA battles. And sure, it's not going to be lightning fast, you know, literal kung fu or anything like that. But we're not so slow that, you know, it looks like we're swimming through the world, or, you know, we're fighting underwater. To me, right now, the current state of, like, medieval or melee combat, especially with bows, I got a lot of stuff I can talk about bows, but basically the current state of all of this feels essentially the difference between, do you remember console Halo, like Halo 3, that sort of slow pacedness? It feels like that versus like something like Quake or Unreal or just like a modern military shooter like, you know, PUBG, something like that, where the pace is totally different. You know, how you shoot, how you aim, the gameplay, the reaction, the speed, it's just a totally different level. And I think we should be on that level, especially when it comes to the simulator style games. I understand that overall the gameplay flow would be slower, more methodical. You know, it's probably going to focus more on tactics and strategy, but the mechanics itself should not suffer, I think, just because of that, especially if you are a simulator totally focused on the mechanics of, you know, historical European melee combat. That is what I got to say. So now let's take that. Let's say even our best, you know, simulator, which is Mordhau, that's the best melee combat simulator. And say it's not quite realistic enough, it's not quite fast enough. If you do agree with me on that, now let's bring that over to fantasy games. Okay, so like MMOs, just RPGs in general. Yeah, why is it that when I can play a fantasy game and I can shoot lightning bolts, or I can buff my defense, and I can like have like bubble shields and, you know, a lot of ridiculous stuff like that. I can go fucking invisible. Why is it that I can have these kind of magical abilities, and yet still physically I am far inferior to what is potential of the human race on planet Earth in real life? Or just me as a fucking nerd, I can definitely do more than what I see in Skyrim, absolutely. Of course, obviously, limitations of the engine, and you could say, well, it's because, you know, you can do all that magic and stuff. But I'm saying, well, can't we have magic that allows us to super jump? Can't we have magic that allows us to run really, really fast? Or just, why is it that in these games, oh my gosh, I remember I was playing a game called Mortal Online, and in that game, you start level 1, you know, you're not fast or anything, you're not strong, you don't have any magic, And this was the first time where it really slapped me in the face. It even got me to make a video called Mortal Online Sucks, which actually kickstarted my YouTube career, fun fact. But anyways, in that game, you literally cannot run, level 1. You can't run. There is no, you can't sprint. Technically, you press shift and you're sprinting in terms of like the game code, but you're moving slower than like a power walk. But seriously, it takes like minutes, it would take minutes to kill like literal like fauna, like little like deer and rabbit and stuff. It would take just so long to do anything in that game, which any normal person in real life, average human physique, would have a better physique than in this fantasy video game. That is just ridiculous to me. Again, for certain games like Call of Duty, that's a balance issue. Halo, again, was slower balancing and it was very specific. And again, in Mordhau, it is a specific reason why they allow certain things and don't allow certain things. While, you know, the aiming is extremely expressive, it is also at the same time somewhat of a limiter, which is why the speed of the game works a certain way, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So games are games, they're video games, and limitations can breed creativity. So don't get me wrong, you know, like that can be cool. The control scheme of a MOBA feels clunky in a lot of ways, point and click, you know, things like that, but it also creates unique mechanics and unique gameplay, things that you wouldn't experience otherwise. You know, if you use WASD, if League of Legends used WASD, it would legitimately be a lesser of a game. Even though a lot of people would consider that more freedom, it is the limitations that allow us more creativity with our mechanics some of the time. I would maybe even debatably most of the time. But I'm just saying that I've got a little bit of an issue that there seems to be a severe lack of mechanical expression when it comes to melee medieval combat, and especially in fantasy games where there should be absolutely no excuse. Why are we always grounded? Why can't we be jumping and leaping, which you see in like superhero games? Why can't, like, you know, if you're in a fantasy, you know, and you're a mage, you are a superhero, man. There's literal like magic superheroes. They're jumping around and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Those games are super fun and wild and wicked. I love it. But, you know, our MMORPGs and, you know, online RPGs or action RPGs, we're always so stuck on the ground. I mean, we can shoot like nuclear explosions or like, you know, have infinite energy, continuous lightning bolts that ricochet around the world. But be able to jump over a fence, that's asking a little bit too much. So that is my rant, and I would love to see more people complain about it, you know, in the world. I want to see more stuff like that. That would be great. That's what I got to say. But I do want to know what you guys, your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below. And lastly, I just want to say, guys, if you want to hear a certain specific kind of rant, you know, my thoughts and feelings on anything, or if you want me to review a specific game, all you got to do is be a Patreon and then join the Discord, and then just, you know, ask me in the Discord, actually. Join the community. You'll get a little thing that says, hey, I'm a Patreon, basically. You know, everyone will see that you're a Patreon, and then we'll talk about it. And I'll try to actually make a video on that for you. Now, there's no tiers or anything. Patreon is pure donations, but still, I want to actually listen to you guys and try to do what you guys want because you're my supporters. So thank you so much. I have fun doing these videos, spitting out these rants, and playing the games for the footage and for the reviews. Much love, and again, you know, please have the debate in the comments below with me. And if there is a game that does, like, you know, combat really, really well good, you know, let me know, because I want to play more of those. Mordhau has been a tremendous amount of fun, and I suggest, you know, checking out Mordhau. It's actually really relatively cheap, and it offers some, you know, some good stuffs. You know, as much as I kind of complained here about the video and used it as an example, it's actually pretty sweet. Anyways, that's it. Much love. See you in the next one.